Hello everybody, this is Mariano Nestroza with Brooklyn Arts Council's 2020 CASA program, and today we're going to do the second part of our class on color. Last time we started with Henri Matisse and we copied one of his paintings, and today I'm going to apply what we learned and make a composition of my own using a photograph I took at Planting Fields Foundation, which is a beautiful park and historic estate in Long Island. And now that we're doing social distancing, it is a wonderful place to go spend the day and be outside. If you're able to go, I really recommend it. Okay, so let's see what we've got. So I have the image in my computer, and as you can see, there's a lot of different shades of colors. We have some like yellowish greens, kind of like lime green, some more grayish, whitish, muted greens. We have purple. Have pinkish purple over there. There's touches of orange, and then we also have like little spots of blue, right? Like the sky showing through the foliage. So there's a lot to work with, and the way I'm going to proceed, and the easiest way to go when it comes to using watercolor, is to start with the light colors. So I'll start working with the lighter colors, and then I will build the darker tones on top as I go along. So these are the supplies we're going to be using today. I have an eraser, pencil, brushes, watercolor paper, my watercolor paint set, and water. So the first thing I'm going to do to make my life a little bit easier is to do an approximate outline of where the objects in my painting are. So I'm going to start with that purple flower bush in the left. This will help me and give me just like a basic understanding, a little map of where things are. To make things a bit easier as I go along. I'm drawing everything, I'm trying to do it not pressing too hard, so the lines are light so I can erase them later. Or maybe I'll leave them. I mean, sometimes it's kind of nice to have the overlap of like the drawing and then the color on top. Here we are. Here's my basic sort of structure. Oh, and there's sort of. Not too detailed, as you can see. Just enough. So I'm going to start with the light green of this tree. I've mixed a bit of ochre, a bit of teal, a bit of blue, and a lot of water. Because by adding water, I make it more transparent. And that's what I want right now. So the leaves are kind of shooting out from left to right, so I'm going to try and play with that. And like I always say, the model is just the starting point. So I'm going to make the leaves my own way. And following, you know, the rhythm game that we've been exploring, looking at Van Gogh and Matisse. More leaves. And you see how I curved the lines over here? That creates a different effect to the ones I have over here. And now, by doing a more horizontal rhythm behind, more like that, by doing a rhythm that is a little bit more horizontal, you can almost create two different shapes within the same area. But we'll see this better when we go later on. Okay. I'm going to move on to a different kind of green, and in this case I'm going to add a little bit more ochre. So that it stands out from this one. And I'm also going to use a different kind of brush stroke. I'll use thicker brush strokes. Next I'm going to go in with the light greens. Like those lime greens that we have. So for that we're going to need a lot of yellow. You see how we're starting to have different iterations, different shapes made by clusters of brush strokes that are also somewhat different between each other and of different colors. I'm going to keep going with the greens, still the light greens. Now I'm going to do the path, and I'm going to use a thinner brush so I can create a thinner texture to mimic the grass. I'm actually going to use almost like dots, very small brush strokes. This will create, well, yet another texture. We have leaves, we have bushes, we have like this bed of like low bush over here, and then we'll have the path of grass. And it will start becoming a bit more clear as we go on. It's usually how it always goes. Everything's very seems very open and very vague when we start, and as we fill in the page, things start to become more clear, more apparent, or not. I mean, it depends. You see how I'm leaving some spots here and there that I'm not coloring in. That is because we have a shady area. So right now I'm really just painting some of the areas that are getting some of that sunlight. And we'll go back in with a darker color when we start doing the shading. So that's our path for now. Now I'm going to work on some of the remaining lighter greens that we have. I'll do some here. Some over there. See how it kind of does start to create like different textures, even though it's similar greens. That was a bit darker. And next will be some of the bright color. So I'm gonna start with that like pinkish purple. But I'm gonna make it more red. I want mine to be more red than purple. And I'm going to use a different kind of brush stroke to make those flowers stand out. There's some more around here. And there's some orange flowers. Oh, that orange looks brown, but it's orange. And next will be the shady parts. So I'm going to start with the flowers since I was already kind of working on that, and use purple, a dark purple, for my shady flowers over here. I'm going to put a couple over here as well. Now for our darker greens. So for the shade, I'm going to mix green with some purple. The purple that I already had over here. I'm going to take some teal. Actually, I'm not going to use it for the grass. I'm going to use it for the plant. And if we look at the picture, we see all these little leaves against the light. So I'm going to try and play with that. So I see the leaves doing sort of like crisscross. So I'm going to use some of that. And now I'm going to mix it with a little bit of orange so that it will be slightly different. It will still be a similarly dark color, but it will be slightly different for the part where we have ground bushes once the plant ends. And yet again, I'm going to add now a little bit of yellow and a little bit of blue for my grass spot. So I think it needs to be darker. It's not dark enough, so I'm gonna add a little bit of purple to make it a bit darker. There we go. That's looking more like it. Now more ground bushes over here. And now we'll just keep going. So behind these flowers over here we have a different bush, so I'm going to use a slightly different green for that. It's going to be a little bit lighter, and I'm also going to use a slightly different brush stroke. Okay, now let's move on to shadows of other bushes. So I'm going to do this one and this one over here. So I'm going to pick a darker shade of that green. And now this bush over here. Oh, I forgot to do all the shade that goes over here. This, once I draw it, it will make our path look much more clear. See? Now it's suddenly much more visible. Because we have light, dark, light. So that's what helps separate those two. So can you see how the bottom part of the painting is starting to look much more solid? You still have these parts in the top that they still look pretty flat, but like now that we're using elements of colors to express light and colors to express shade, lighter and darker, also brighter and less bright, it helps everything kind of come forward. It separates one thing from the next. So we're going to continue to do that for the top part of our painting as well. And let's look at the model. It seems very, very, very busy, right? I see so much like light green and then dark green, but we'll just do the same thing. We have all this light green over here, but like once we start incorporating like all that dark side, this will start to be clearer. Same thing with that part. And the last bit that we'll do will be to incorporate the blue for the sky, which will also bring a nice element of contrast. Since we have like all these greens, all these yellows, the blue will be a nice touch. So I'm going to use two different colors for my tree trunks. I'm going to use a redder tone for that tree in the back, and I'm going to use a cooler, like bluer, more purple tone for our front tree. So the other thing we have to talk about here is, see how we have a new element as far as like the types of brush strokes and like the whole composition. Now we have like the thin, a little bit more squarish, and then suddenly like a long brush stroke that adds like another element, another variation, which is really what it's all about. Finding different ways to incorporate different rhythms, different color, and that the directions in which we do our brush strokes are one way, and also the size and so forth. I'm going to leave that trunk at that for now. And for this trunk, since it's covered by leaves, it will also kind of follow some of the rhythms. It will have to work around. There are our branches. There's our tree. So I said that the final part would be the blue, but before getting to that, I've noticed that there's some areas here that I didn't quite finish, and also the leaves in that back tree, which are a little bit more like on the brown, yeah, warm tone kind of side. So I'll work on those first. Yeah, put some leaves between. So those are some bushes that are way in the back, and now I'm gonna go with the tree leaves. And now we finally do get to the blue. Okay.
See, that blue adds like a nice, it breaks the monotony of the leaves and adds this very nice, almost like a stained glass window effect. It gives it a little bit of air. And we finished. Here's our landscape today.
I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy, stay positive, make art, and be happy.